Absolutely massive show today, talking all things in black wrestling. But we also have a Hall of Famer in the house that we're going to get to first and foremost. Stay tuned. This is WrstlXtra.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate, always joined by my trios team Mix, the WrestleManiac, if you will, and of course the professor that is Gerard Bonner. We are not alone today. We have a fourth person. I kind of already want to have him as our manager. He is
solid.
Of course, it would be great. Yeah. He is, of course, a two-time WCW US champion, a WCW TV champion, three-time WCW heavyweight champion, four-time WCW tag team champion, a tag team champion WWF, as well as a European champion as well. But of course, he is also a WWE Hall of Famer. Guys, welcome Diamond Dallas Page.
Hey, man.
Wow.
Good to be on. Good to be on. Bang.
Bang. Bang.
I'm glad my buddy Anthony Agogo just want to set this up because him and I are super, super tight. And, one of the reasons why he's actually involved in wrestling, but that's a whole nother story. But what a great human being and yes, a beautiful person.
I can imagine he was very complimentary of you as well in the talks that me and him had, and I can imagine him calling you a diamond geezer, for sure. But let's get straight into it. DDP, we know that you are making your way to the UK in the next few weeks. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that first, and then we'll get into more stuff straight after that?
The main reason I'm coming, for starters, it was for the love of wrestling, which is in Manchester this year. And it's almost like a WC, even though all of us are WWE guys, it's like it's sort of like a WCW reunion because Goldberg's going to be there, Nash is going to be there, Booker T is going to be there. Missing somebody, Big Show, like all of these guys, were together, coming up. Like me and Nash were nobodies. Big Show, of course, when he came in, he was positioned to work with Hulk, and I was down the power plant, or what would be known as what the WWE Performance Center is today. We're learning and trying to get better. And Big Show came there, and I started to literally train him as a 24-year-old kid. And I've learned that the more you teach someone, the more you learn, the better you get. Booker and I go back because when he came in as Harlem Heat with him and Stevie, there's always a point in time where the tag team splits up. And that there's always that one guy that was that jettison player. And if Stevie was younger, he might have been himself one as well, being a WWE Hall of Famer with Booker T. But Book and I were really close. And when my career exploded, I can remember one day they were trying to get him away from Harlem Heat because that had run his course and trying to break him out. And they had him doing like the GI Bro thing, right? And he was to make his face. And I walked by him and I said, man, that's not your gimmick. He goes, I know, D. He said, but I was digging ditches, and mopping floors 2-3 years ago, whatever it was at that point. He goes, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get over till I finally find that spot. And the whole GI Bro thing was really genius because there's a comic book that came out, GI Bro, which they stole the whole thing from Booker. I don't know how that ended up working out, but they stole the whole thing from Book. And one point, Book and I went out, and there was a movie years ago called Lean on Me. and Samuel L. Jackson played the lead character, and he in a heavily drug infested area, and the kids being on drugs, he would lock the doors, of so the drug dealers couldn't get in. They were left out, and the kids were left out, under watched as they were going, so nobody would come around and try and sell them drugs and all that stuff. But Book and I, his name was Joe Clark. Book was literally going out with me to go speak to a place, not where if you screw up one more time, you're going to prison. All of these kids, this was their holding cell before they went to the big house.
Wow.
And I get up and I do my thing, and it's pretty fucking good. It's pretty inspirational. But then Book got up and he told the story everybody knows today about him, armed robbery, 25 deals before they ever got caught, doing 2 years in the big house. I never knew any of that. And Book kept it down, but he shared it with me to them. And man, that blew my mind, because I never saw Booker T anything but a class act, hardest worker in the room, like driven. I'm gonna go. You would never know that was his history. And when Jake Roberts came into my home, and I was trying to help him get off booze and pills and coke and crack, and 6 or 7 rehabs failed. The one thing I got Jake to learn on his own, but it came through the process. My history is not my destiny. And that became the theme that put Jake Roberts where he is today. Right. He's going to be 68 in another month, and not even 3 weeks. No, another month. And he's living his best life. He's back with his wife, Cheryl, from 2 divorces, because they got married and divorced twice. 2 kids in between each time. Had 4 kids together. They're living their best life. She's on the road doing all this, They're just unbelievably in love. It's so amazing to watch. But back at Book, when I heard this story and knew who he was, we were driving now to the next town where we're going to wrestle. And I said, Book, you got to put that story out there. He said, I know. I go, dude, it's going to take you to a whole nother level. He's like, yeah, I know, but I'm not ready yet. And when it's ready, when I write my book, he goes, it's all going to come out. And Booker T, like, you go to, I've been as tight as you can be with him in our business, down to see him numerous times to do different things, signings together. He has a whole program for young men, and teaching them, don't wear your underwear hanging out of your pants. Like, the man, you want to set an example, you want to lead by example, look sharp. It's the same message Jay-Z teaches. You know what I mean? It's like, look sharp, and you will impress people by who you are. Right. And it's got to come to a point where we don't see color, and the bottom line is that cat. I mean, I love him, and anybody who's in UK can come and see all of us. Booker, it's like a WCW reunion, even though we all ended in WWE. So I'm excited about that. So that's what brings me out there, because they'll fly me first class, and I get taken care of. I don't come. You ain't flying me first class. I'm not as simple as that. And so now that I'm there in the UK, I'm going to come in a couple of days early. My wife, Paige, yes, her name is Paige, so she's Paige. But the really funny part is her maiden name, and you can't make this shit up. Yep, is McMahon.
Right.
But Jericho heard that. If no one had heard it, when I did my AEW last match where I came up the top rope again and all that, I introduced him as Paige. He went, and Jericho's one of the few guys who always calls me Paige. I don't like people to call me Paige because it confuses the brand, you know. But Chris, hey, call me Dallas. You know, I mean, like, you know, it gives a little more sentimental value to us coming up together. But he's like, your name's Paige? You're Paige? And then I said, honey, tell him what your maiden name is. When he heard McMahon, he was drinking like soda or something. He spit it out. So, you know, bottom line is that she'll be with me. She's never seen the UK. I love the UK. I love traveling the whole country. So last time I came in, I flew into London and drove all the way up, stopping along the way to Glasgow, and then worked my way down. So this time we'll come in with the king being finally crowned after 70 years.
Wait a long time.
We're going to get that crown off her head. It's like, we're going to get that crown off her head. And so on. And, you know, watching all that stuff, you know, I think she did a pretty damn good job, last as long as she did the whole deal.
She tried.
But now she's finally going to get the world title, the king on his head. I'm not going anywhere near London because it's going to be a madhouse. So we fly into Manchester, and then we go up, and there's some mountains up in Scotland. My wife she's a mountain climber. She's climbed Mount Fuji, like real mountains. And she's going to do that. Then we're going to come back, and I have my first workshop in Glasgow. The next day will be in Newcastle. And then we're off a few days for the love of wrestling. And then we end up in Birmingham. And what I'm doing is not doing a workout with everybody. It's inspiration meets perspiration. It's nice. 2.5 to 3 hour event. Get there an hour early because Paige and I will be right there as you walk in. My buddy Hayden, who's from London, who's the head of my certification department for DDP Yoga, is in London. His name is Hayden Walden. So him and his wife will be there and greeting everybody, send them right to us. I take a picture with everybody. Everyone that comes through, and there are so many people who want to tell me their stories. So I get through all of that, and sometime within that next hour and a half, I'll get up and I'll speak for about 30 to 40 minutes. And when I'm speaking, it's all about trying to get people, you know, some people are going to come there who've lost hope and they're looking for hope. Some people are already involved and they want to get pumped up and, you know, have a hell of a workout. So it's really from some people who come in literally on walkers, you know, and we'll be working with them while I'm working with everyone else. Right now, Birmingham's like 145 people already signed up. Like Newcastle's like 99 or something. No, that's like 69. And I think Glasgow's got like 90. But I have done this the first All In. You remember back before AEW. I did 172 people. It broke the record. Then I broke another record in Canada and then came back for the second All In. And we did 192 people. You know, inspiration meets perspiration. Beginning, it's all about pumping you up. Then I break it down in case no one's ever done it before. I break it down and I show you how to do what I call the Diamond Dozen. And it just moves we're going to do. And I do them with everybody because people who are even experienced, maybe they're doing it off a little bit. And Paige and Hayden walk through the crowd and adjust people. And for some people, that's a workout. It's not a workout. It's a tutorial. But for some people, it's a workout. And I tell them, hey, just sit down. If you don't want to do the rest of this workout that we're about to do another, you know, we're going to do a real workout then, like probably 45 minutes. I show modifications throughout it. So even those people who just learned it can do a version of it. And really, I always say DDP Yoga is the name of the company, always be that, but I brand it now DDPY. Why? Because I want people to stop calling it just fucking yoga, because it's not. It's a yoga, rehab, or physio, as you guys would call it, physio, old school calisthenics, and something I call dynamic resistance, which is just time under tension, flexing and engaging as you're moving, just like you're lifting weights. And what happens because of that, every time you flex or engage a muscle, your heart has to beat faster to get the blood to the muscle. So what happens is people get a kick-ass cardiovascular workout that dramatically increases their flexibility and mobility and strengthens their core at a whole different level, all with minimal to zero impact on their joints. So I do all of that, and then we do a big group picture with everybody, and then at the end of the day, and for me, it's like 5 or 6 hours because I put the time in. I go for a Q&A, answer questions afterwards, and it's a really good time by everybody. And what's really fascinating, probably a third of the people come by themselves. Like some couple, sometimes it's someone in their grandfather or grandmother or their mom or their dad, but a third come by themselves because they have to do this because they've been either working out with me for years on the DDP Yoga Now app, which anybody can see what I'm talking about. If you go to your app store and download the app, or go to ddpyoga.com and download the app, you get it free for 7 days. You can always cancel it. So no one can tell me they can't do it because I'm giving it to you for nothing. Try it and see if it works for you. So I've really made this excuseless. And a lot of people will think, oh God, his workouts, he'll kill me. My workouts start off in bed. Like, you can't get out of bed? I got a total of 6 workouts that will help you get out of bed and then sit in a chair. They're called chair forks, where you're sitting in a chair. And then you'll stand up and you'll sit down. Stand up, sit down until you can finally hold on to a chair and then build your core strength and your mobility. Like, phenomenal for people who are injured, immobile, or elderly people. Then it goes beginner all the way to psycho extreme. And the reason why I can have a workout with all levels, because I'm always going to show them a modification of what to do so you can do it. And I always say, make the DDPY your own. Make it your own so anyone can do it at any level. So that's basically what they get. And I'm really looking forward to seeing all the wrestling fans there too, and for the love of wrestling, because one of the things I love the most is the Q&As. And I'm not there to make money. I swear to God, on this whole trip, I'm out to do really well over when it's all said and done. But I'm not there for that. I don't have to leave my house anymore. Like, my life is complete. I'm locked in. I'm building a retreat, a 4-story retreat in Panama City Beach, Florida, which is like the west coast of Florida, on the Gulf. So, and I have zero debt. I don't have to do this. I'm doing this because I want to connect with the people who have been putting the work into the program. That's why I do it.
Amazing.
So as you can quickly tell, DDP, I'm the guy without the British accent.
I thought I was doing a really good American accent.
And part of the reason that I'm the guy without the British accent is because I'm like the third man of this group, and I'm actually in Atlanta. So I have I've been to the studio. I have been training with DDPY before things got shut down. Garrett was my trainer. Like, we can talk stories and things like that. So it's awesome. What I wanted to ask you, though, was you have literally seemingly lived a life filled with inspiration. What was the point that got you to really desire to inspire people?
For starters, I'll answer that in 1 second. Tonight, I'm filming a workout tonight at 6 o'clock.
Holy
where
cow.
Renee is actually going to be doing the first half hour. I'll be doing the second. I'd love you to come, Gerard, be our guest tonight.
For sure.
If you'd like to come, say that. Inspiration, I come from a broken family, man. Like by the time I was 3 years old, my mom was married, divorced, and had 3 kids. She was 19 at the time. So when my parents split up, my brother's sister went to live with my mom, who in turn had to give them to my grandmother. And we know that ends up a lot of times. Grandmas raised a lot of kids, man.
Yeah.
And she had to move up to North Jersey to make more money to help that side of the family. Me, I went to live with my dad. Maybe, because little Paige had too much energy, and my grandmother couldn't have handled my infant sister and my 1-year-old brother and a 3-year-old wild man. The problem was my dad was a wild man. He was 21. He couldn't even spell the word father back then, let alone be one. So I bounced around from one family to another. And it was, I noticed at a very early age, and we all know this if you're a kid from divorce. When you're at your father's family, they bury your mother. When you're at your mother's family, they bury your father, And at a very early age, I started thinking, that's not right. They both can't be wrong. So it was the beginning of me not judging. And it would go on to be religion, race, economic value. I mean, I can be, one of the things that really made me is incredibly adaptable. Like I could literally be, with a CEO, Fortune 500 company president, boom, and be sitting down and having lunch with them or whatever, doing something with them, having an amazing conversation. I could be with my buddy Chuck Zito, who was the head of the Hells Angels for 25 years. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm very adaptable. And a big reason for me getting along with so many people, so many different types of people, because I don't judge them. Everybody comes from their own spot. And so instinctively, I would reach out I saw a post the other day on social media. Be so positive, negative people don't want to hang around you. And I thought, that's powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
There was this guy, he was a Bible thumper. His name was Zig Ziglar. And he's fascinating to listen to speak. And he said, you can get whatever you want as long as you help enough people get what they want. And I mean, when I was wrestling, when Bischoff got control, I had come back after they let me go when Bill Watts, so I tore my rotator cuff. When I came back, and Bish and I met in a pull-apart fight with each other. That's how we know each other from the get-go. But the whole thing as far as helping people, when I got to a position to help people, I can list 30 guys off that I got jobs through from the Disco, Raven, who created that gimmick for Scotty. I gave him the vision. He created it. Ice Train, Harold Hogue, still one of my best friends. Ray Lloyd. Ernest Miller was Eric's guy, but if I didn't, and I knew I'd have got it because he was perfect for that Mortal Kombat team. I got 30 guys jobs, and I'll tell you a great story about Thanksgiving because I'm living the year. The NWO turn, all that 1997. My career went crazy. All of a sudden, I was a 6-year overnight success. And on Thanksgiving, the Wednesday before, everybody's out partying the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Everybody comes home for wherever they're from. And I keep getting, they were beepers back then, not Texas, but they were Texas. Right. And they were saying things like, DDP, have a great Thanksgiving. So thankful, bro. Thank you so much for helping me live the dream. There was so many guys like that. And I started thinking, who? Dusty Rhodes.
Where'd he go?
There is no Diamond Dallas Page. Here's a great picture of me in the Dream. Right?
Wow.
1989, when I worked with him or for him in Florida Championship Wrestling, which started our deal. The positioning of so I'm looking at the thing saying thank you. I'm like, who doesn't know? I know Dusty knows. I know Jake Roberts. There's gonna be a picture of Jake and him when I'm on the independent scene after they let me go, fire me, basically, after wrestling for 9 months and tore my rotator cuff. And those two guys were so influential in what I ended up living. I had to put the work in, but they were so influential. So who doesn't know? And I go, Savage, I bet you he doesn't know how much this means to me. So I pick up the phone and I said, hey, Randy, this is going to sound kind of corny. I'm leaving him a message, right? Because he never answered his phone. I said, but it's going to sound kind of corny, but I'm getting all these thank you messages from guys I helped live the dream and get a job with WCW. And I'm thinking, who doesn't know that I'm grateful? And I said, I will bet you have no idea how grateful I am. I said, dude, it's not lost on me. I'm not living this life that I'm living right now as what in 1997, the two hottest guys on the planet, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Diamond Dallas Page. And I said, man, I just want to thank you, man. I really appreciate it because I know I'm not living this life without you. Have an awesome Thanksgiving. I hung up and completely forgot about it. And it ended up like Monday comes around. And hold on, my wife's teaching something there. Hold on one second.
Yeah. This is the beauty of being live. I love it.
Filming something. So I walk in the door, the building, and I've got my bag. I'm just, listening to my freaking headphones. I take my headphones off. I say something to somebody, and then I hear Diamond, and I see Randy. Come here. I'm like, what the fuck did I do? I walk up to him. We meet right in front of this office. He grabs it. He pushes me in the office. He goes, I got your message. Yeah. I played it. I played it a couple of times. Yeah. And then I called my dad. And I played it for him. And I said, Dad, did any of the boys ever do anything like this for you? He said, no. Wow. I just want you to know it meant a lot. And he hugged me and lifted me off the ground. I was like, God, I thought he was going to try and kick my ass or something.
Right.
But this is something Booker said too, and I always quote him on it. When we were at that place where those kids were all going to the joint, he said, please and thank you cost nothing. And it's so powerful, so at a very early age, that's a long answer, but it takes you from a kid all the way up to like, I know I don't even have this life like today. Like what beating Randy Savage meant to the fans. It elevated me to a spot that I would be in for the next 5 years. Yeah. It's crazy. And still today, like if you look at guys who still draw at these signings, like I have one of the longest lines. Of course, Ric Flair is his own animal. And Goldberg coming out and doing that, he's going to be the king. But, me and Nash, Booker, Big Show, I'm sure is going to be ridiculous because he hasn't even been out in the circuit, but the rest of us have. People are going to come in droves. There was a woman named Maya Angelou who's been quoted so I want to say it was, I don't know, in her 40s or 50s, whatever, when a black woman was not didn't even exist of any kind of, we have to listen to her. She was, and she made an impact. Some of her quotes are just off the charts. But the one that I will live with me forever, she said, she said, I've learned that they may not remember what you did or what you said, but they will always remember the way you made them feel.
Mm.
And that's what wrestling is. You know?
For sure.
Totally.
For sure.
It's been a part of my DNA ever since I heard Ziggler say that, pretty much.
Wow.
Amazing. So we know your story of becoming, a professional wrestler, like quite late on. I think you started training when you were 35. But then, of course, you had a lot of success in a relatively short time. How has that impacted the way and the things you do when it comes to DDPY? Obviously, as you said, it's all about, mobility and helping people who are probably immobile and older people and stuff like that. Has that been like a mirror image of how your career has gone?
Yeah, man. It's funny. You guys know who Brian Alvarez is?
Yeah.
Guys who works with, Meltzer.
Yeah.
I knew him back when he had his own. Like before he ever got over working with Meltzer, he was by himself. He was a worker, he loved wrestling, and but he also could work pretty good too. And probably, I would say that my whole concept blew up in 2012. So it's been 11 years of unbelievable success, but it took 8 years to be an overnight success. Before I ever made a dime, it was $548,000 in before any of us took any money. And it's where we could make a living. And that's all my hope was. So, ask that question. Say the question. I'm going to lose my train of thought.
So was the way your career went an inspiration for DDP Yoga and the way you wanted to help others?
Alvarez says to me probably 14 years ago. And before I preface this, when I say the name Jack LaLanne, that was a guy in the 50s and 60s, was like even in the early 70s, the premier figure for health on television. No one saw anything like him before. He was the guy who had people exercising and picking up, whether it was, boxes of or cans of tomatoes, just do any kind of exercise and stuff you had at home. He would die at 96, being like the all-time leader of what you look at success in our country. So he says to me 2 years before it ever takes off. So it really looks like he's been working at this for 6-7 years and it ain't going nowhere. We're getting a couple success stories here and there. And he said to me, where do you see Diamond Dallas Page 5 years from now? And, the whole, back then it was called Yoga for Regular Guys. He goes, where do you see it? I said, 5 years from now, I will start becoming known as the new Jack LaLanne meets Tony Robbins meets straight Richard Simmons. And Richard Simmons was a very flamboyant cat who helped a lot of big people. I don't know. Whatever he was fun. He was flamboyant. I would nothing like him, but I help a lot of big people. I said, to be honest, Brian, I honestly think in the next 5 years, this whole program is going to start to overshadow my wrestling career. And he said, what? Come on, bro. The program's good. I do it myself, but come on. And you had an unbelievable career. That's a bold statement. I said, yeah. But I had known that I'd helped that guy, Arthur, the disabled veteran. And I saw his transformation, and he filmed everything. And I knew, so many people will say, well, I'll believe it when I see it. Those people never see shit. They're stuck in a spot. They're with blinders. They don't have visions. The people who say, I see it, so I believe it. Like, it's got to start from the inside out. This podcast, like, can you imagine this happening 20 years ago?
Right.
Nope.
Right.
You know, I mean, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has changed so much, but someone had to see that first. Someone had to see it and then start to believe and say, well, what if we do this and that? Look what they're doing. A great example would be, and this is a guy, another guy from the UK, Roger Bannister, who broke the 4-minute mile.
Yeah.
They literally, the doctors had written papers on it's impossible physically. Some people said because your heart would explode.
Wow.
But Bannister, when he would be running, he would envision, and he had it written, 3:59. Crossing that 4 miles. Envision it. He saw it. Every time he worked out, he saw it. And then one day he did it. And the crazy thing is, a couple of weeks later, I can't remember, there's another guy from the UK, his number one, guy, nemesis, let's call him, for where we come from, he beats his record.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then he beats that record, the race of the century, they called it. I believe the record right now is, I want to say he's from a guy from Africa. I'm not sure exactly, but somewhere, a different country than the UK or United States. And his record is 3:49. 3 minutes, 49 seconds.
Wow.
And there's been, I don't know, like 600 people have broken that. Like, once someone sees something that someone do one thing, it opens, not everybody's, but people who see it. Like, everything you've seen me achieve, I seen it. When I told my friends I was going to get into professional wrestling, when I was 23, they fucking bust my balls so bad. That's never going to happen. And then I actually did find a guy in Jersey City, which is about 60 miles north of me, train me like twice a day for 3 months. That's all I wrestled. I sucked. You can't learn anything 1 or 2 nights a week. But I literally 3 matches over that period. The third one, I hurt my knee. And when I hurt my knee, the doctor told me to take off a month or so, and then you can go back to that crazy shit you're talking about doing. I got the first chance to run a little rock and roll joint in the bar business. I was in the bar business since I was 17. Now I'm 23. I'm getting to run a little rock and roll joint. Man, the booze, the broads, and the party took me in a whole different direction. And I completely forgot about the dream. And then I was in 79. I don't have an iPad here, but I literally have a card that says December 7th, 1979. Handsome Dallas Page back then.
Wow.
And, the booze, the broads, just having too much fun. And then a thing called WrestleMania happened.
Jeez.
And I saw that happen. I was so mad at myself for not following the vision. And God had a reason for that, because if I'd have met Jake Roberts at 23, 24 years old, we'd both be dead. Different level. Challenging each other. It wasn't supposed to happen. That's how things happen when they're supposed to. If you stay focused and you put the work in and you make the right calls. And bottom line is, I stopped watching wrestling for, I don't know, a couple of years. And then one day I was flicking the channels and I see Gorilla Monsoon. I'm like, who's the dude with him? He's got a boa and crazy sunglasses and a do-rag. And he's got this unbelievable voice. It's Jesse Ventura. I'm like, this is amazing. So I'm watching. Who's the first guy to walk out? Got a bag over his shoulder.
Wow.
And swag for days. And I watched Jake watch in the ring, and I can't see through his shit. And then he cuts one of those promos. Man, is some of this shit real? like how great he was. And no bullshit. At that time, it's 1986. I'm running a huge dance club called Norma Jean's Dance Club. And it's in Fort Myers, Florida. Mm-hmm. And one night, Jake walks in. Wow. And when I saw it from I wasn't sure if it was him, but I was in my office, and there's 1,000 people in this club. And I see it. I'm looking at the monitor at the front door. I go, God, no way. And I go out of my office. I go through the place is so crowded. I ran around the outside of the building.
Wow.
Front door. I'm like, Johnny, did a guy walk in here look like Jake the Snake Roberts? He's like, yeah. Everybody thinks it's him. So like every other mark, I'm not running, but very quickly moving into the club. And I see him and I slow down. You don't want to fanboy all over Jake Roberts.
Right.
Eventually, I worked my way over to him and I'm like, hey, man, you Jake Snake Roberts? Who wants to know? He said, yes. What can I do for you? I said, what are we drinking? So we got so fucked up that night. Wow. He told other guys about it, the boys. Next thing you know, these two guys end up in the club.
Wow.
Look at there. Luke put this up on his website. Wow. He put it up on his Facebook site about 9 months ago, and it said DDP before he was DDP.
Wow.
Luke is the reason why I drove the pink Cadillac. By that
WrestleMania 6.
By that time, I was managing an AWA, and Luke had come in, and he said, Diamond, they're looking for some old car to take Honky Tonk Man and bring Jimmy Hall to the ring WrestleMania. This is a beautiful car. Would you rent it to the WWE? I said, sure. Let me call Pat. So he picks up goes to my office, calls Pat up, tells him about the car. Sight unseen, Pat says, we want the car. What does it cost? I said, if you'll drive it up there, bring it up because it's a 62, if you'll let that car get, towed up there, I will drive it. I will give it to you if you let me drive it and put me up while I'm there. Wow. That's how the car got the gig. I was just the extra.
Wow.
Crazy. Crazy. Max, you got a question?
Yeah. I mean, Dallas, you're definitely, a student of the game. You've told us about how, you came into the game, I guess, traditionally late, but, you still achieved, the heights of becoming a world champion, 3 times in the space of when you came in. Before we went live, you showed us a picture of an icon, a heavyweight champion, which I want you to kind of talk to the people about as well. But on this show particularly, we look at black wrestling and kind of assess how have black wrestlers done on a week-to-week basis. As well as that, who do you think or should be the next big heavyweight champion in black, from the black community in wrestling?
I haven't been watching enough to really give you who's who on out. I went in there and did stuff with Code. I met a lot of guys, but I hadn't seen a lot of people's work. But I'm going to take it outside. I'm going to pick, first of all, Mello is amazing. I was there, and because Bronson's my boy. He trains here in my house. Every Steiner kid is a ridiculous athlete. From Maverick, this is from Rick's side, is Bronson's kids, Rick and Hudson, and the other 2 from Scotty, Brock and Brandon, ridiculous athletes. Brandon is the #1 point guard in the state of Georgia and got full ride to Virginia Tech which is a huge school. So I came down for bronze, and I never want to know the finish, but I really felt like it was Melo's time,
Wow.
scenario to against the guy who's been holding that strap for the next 2 years, and they could go back and forth. Those two. To tell you the guy who when I see him, I don't know about his athletic prowess because I haven't seen him really work yet, but the way he moves and his just natural bling is Trick.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
I like
Nice.
it.
Okay.
That's just from meeting him.
Wow.
Him talk here and there. I've never really,
Wow.
but I believe he comes from South Carolina where he played football, because we were talking about Darius Rucker, who's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And now, he's big time all about the South Carolina Gamecocks. That's our football team here at that college. And from the way Trick was talking, I don't really know if he came there, but it sounded like he did, and Darius was there. But I just, and first of all, he's a good looking dude. He's 6'4" or 5. I just looked at him and I heard him talk a little bit, and I said, that cat's money. And Melo, one of the elite athletes. I look at when I first saw Ricochet, when he was running towards the rope, and he got to that rope and he jumped in the air, did a flip and landed on
his feet.
Ground.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
This cat's a real life superhero.
Right.
Another guy who does DDP Yoga too, with his, keeping him like in the shape. Like AJ Styles is still working like he's 24.
Yeah.
I got to be a lot slower now at 44, 45. But he can do all the stuff because he does DDPY 5 days a week. And I really, I'm going to go down to the Performance Center because I want to get into the guys who want to live at a different level, like who have a different level of work ethic. And I think that Melo's got that. And I watched that match, and it was a hell of a match, man. And I love his swag. So I think you're going to see a lot from him when he finally gets his chance at the show. But the guy I'm going to tell you who's like my outlier, it's Trick. He's going to be He's going to be big. If he has the work ethic, I don't know that. So I don't know that part. I know Bronson got insane work ethic. So, and I gotta believe that Melo does too. Don't know him like that, but when you got those skills, they just don't happen.
Right.
Right.
So my outlier, Trick.
I like it.
Interesting. Tell us about that picture that you showed us before we kicked off as well.
So growing up as a kid, this guy was my hero. And what had happened about a couple years ago, I was on Brainy Quote. And Brainy Quote has different amazing quotes from different people. It was the first time I'd seen Maya Angelou. Like probably for that first thing when Brainy Quote first came out. And then I looked her up, found out who she was. But I read this quote, and it said, the repetitions of affirmations leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. And then I see his name, and I'm like, oh my God, I know his affirmation. And I use this at the end of every speaking gig I do. I do the quote, and then I say, let's break that down. The repetitions of affirmations can be really good. They can change your life, or they can be really bad. And they can pull you into the depths of what I call emotional gravity. Where everything's, if I only had this or I only had that, why does this happen to me? I can't do this. I can't do that. You say you can and you say you can't. You're right. Henry Ford said that. But what the hell did he ever do? It's like the I can attitude. The I can attitude is so huge. The repetitions of affirmations, good or bad, leads to belief. Once that belief, mainly because of work ethic and just driven and relentless, once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. So you guys know it because I didn't show you, because I wish I wouldn't have shown you that picture yet. So what I say to the people, I'm not going to tell you his name. You're going to tell me. And I say, this is what he said. And I'll say it. I know some of your wrestling fans, so this is going to be easy for you to yell out his name. But those of you who aren't, which is about 95% of you, I want you to pretend you're wrestling fans. If you're with me on that, say aye. And if it's a half-assed aye, go, if aye. I said pretend you're wrestling fans. If you're with me on that, aye. I got it, right? So then I go, here's his affirmation. I am the greatest. I am the greatest of all time. Ali, 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 Ali. I did it at the Performance Center. It was the first time I ever did it a few years ago. No one's over 29 there. Ali, Ali. I'm like, how do you know that?
Right.
Well, because he said it. How many times? 1 billion? He'd been saying it since he was a kid. A black man in the 60s in this country was fucked up. Yet this handsome, pretty motherfucker, pretty motherfucker who can talk and not afraid to talk, changes the world. And I tell people he was my favorite ever of all the people that I've ever looked up to. So now we're doing and I want to take that a step farther. And not because he talked, not because he was pretty, not because he backed up everything he said. It's what he did after that. When he basically let them, he had no choice, but let them take his world title away. Because all he had to do was go serve in the military. And I'm a big proponent of the military. And they would have treated him like a god. He would have never seen battle. He would have been paraded around. We've got Muhammad Ali. Just like Joe Louis. He would have been like hailed. So it had nothing to do with anything but what was happening in our country at the time. And he was going to stand up. And it cost millions of dollars. Him and Bill Russell and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, these guys who really could make an impact. Didn't stand up and could have been as big as anybody? O.J. Simpson.
OJ, yep.
You know what I'm saying? Wrong with those guys. Because he wasn't one of those guys who really cared about changing lives. So I'm getting to do an autograph session with him. And I'm so burned out at that time. So I'm running ragged. It's 97. I'm running ragged, but I'm still on adrenaline. And now I know I'm going to be the same one with Ali. So I don't ever take early flights. I fly when I have to get there to get to where I need to get to so I can stay in and chill. Bottom line, I'm on that first flight out. I'm getting there early. I'm going to make sure I'm going to be there when he gets done signing. I'm going to be right there in the green room. I'm going to meet him. The plane gets stuck on the tarmac for like 6 hours.
Whoa.
Wow.
I get to, I can't remember what town we were in. By the time I get there, Ali's done signing. I know, like, there's a really good chance he's not going to be there. So when I get out of that damn car, I'm just like Jake Roberts. I run in that building. I say, bro, grab my bag for me, please. I got to run in there. I got to run in the green room. And it's packed with people. I'm looking, and I hear, Diamond. Damn, and I look over, and it's Ali.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my God, Muhammad Ali knows who I am.
Right.
My brother took this picture as I'm walking towards him. He starts walking towards me and says,
Wow.
lock up.
Wow.
Lock up. You know, I didn't call that.
Yeah.
Up with me. He was
Wow.
That's why he was involved in WrestleManias. There is, and most people don't know this story, but Cowboy Bill Watts, when he was running the I can't remember what territory it was, but it was Louisiana and all that there.
Mid-South. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The spot is Ali. Jake is wrestling against, is a tag match, and it's wrestling against Junkyard Dog. Can't remember how it goes down, but whatever. Dog's down, the other guy's down. Nord, John Nord, who was 300 pounds and just looked like Goldberg at 6'5". He comes at Ali. Ali hits him. He flies through it. Friggin' Jake comes up. He hits him. Boom. He takes it and he goes. Friggin' the place went crazy. Boom. He hit him again. He's like, what the fuck? Finally hit him again, and Jake staggered back. Cowboy Bill Watts wanted to kill him. Wanted to choke him out. And when he got back there, and after the match was over and shit, Ali, he's not hitting him. He's hitting him, but he's not hitting him, or he would have been knocked out. but Jake said, listen, Bill, I got to be here next week. He doesn't.
Wow.
I have seen that footage, and it's something like that. Jake, don't go down. Jake Roberts, no. So, the bottom line, this is the first time I meet him. This is the next time I meet him.
Wow.
And the third time, and I don't have this picture, but the memory is burned in my brain. I got out of the car, and I seen, as I was getting out of the car, him going into, the sliding door of the van, that we have over here. And he's getting in, and it starts pulling away. And I'm like, Ali. The car stops. We're in the parking lot. I come up, the door opens up. I give him a big hug. Just want to get a hug, buddy. That's the last time I saw him. And super cool,
Wow.
Amazing. Well, on that note, we thank you very much for your time. I'm just going to remind the people just where you'll be in the UK. So around April 21st to the 4th of May, DDP will be in the UK. He'll be starting off in Glasgow on the 22nd of April. Newcastle on the 23rd. So Love for Wrestling as well, for the Love of Wrestling even. Manchester on the 29th and the 30th of April. And then down in my hometown in Birmingham on the 3rd of May as well.
If anybody wants to get a spot and wants to come, we'll be at the door as well. But if you just go to DDP Yoga Workshops with ns.com, you can sign up there and have a spot. I think pretty much the rooms are so big, I'll be able to fit whatever shows up, and that's why I'm just now doing a little push at the end, going on different shows, let people know, because unless you're literally in my group, you don't know. So reaching out to everyone. I think Anthony also got me on the Breakfast Show, which is on, I guess, on TV. Not this weekend coming up, but the following weekend. One, I'll be in the UK, so I'll do a zoom in to let people know where I'll be at. It'll be a great time, and it's exactly what you see is what you get. I'm the guy you think I am.
Perfect. Guys, I'll also be posting stuff about it as well. up until the dates and all the rest of it. So don't forget to check out my page, Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram for that. DDP, again, thank you so much for joining us. Shout out to Anthony Ogogo as well for making this happen. And guys, if you want to stick around, we'll carry on with our show. But for now, DDP, thank you very much, sir. And we'll be in touch.
Your pleasure.
Always wanted to do that. Yeah, man.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Phenomenal stuff, man. Guys, thanks everyone for joining us for that part, man. If you want to carry on, we're carrying on for the next few minutes and so about 45 minutes or so, going back into what we usually do here on the show, which is talk everything Black wrestling and all the stuff that's been happening in the last week or so in the world of wrestling. Man, Gerard, I'm gonna go to you first. Actually, how do you feel, bro?
Man, that was amazing, dude. That was incredible. Diamond Dallas Page is such a huge legend, and I mean, he doesn't even we could talk to him for hours. He is in
talk for hours.
well, yeah. But I mean, the stories that he has and the level of inspiration that is involved, I don't think he even realizes his connection to so many people. You know, without DDPY, I'm not in the pro wrestling business. Like, that's not a joke.
Wow.
Like, literally what happened, my wife got me for my birthday this like 10-pack Groupon to DDPY. So I go there and you know, I end up, you know, you think you're going to meet Diamond Dallas Page, but you end up in the course. So I was literally doing DDPY for months before I ever saw him, but I loved it. It was great. Little did I know that it was the nucleus of people at DDPY that also started Southern Honor Wrestling. And so, and what people don't realize is a lot of the, you know, studio shots and pre-tapes that happened for AEW happened at DDPY studio. So I'm seeing all of this and I'm like, this is crazy. I end up getting connected that way, and I end up being a part of Southern Honor, and thus my commentary career begins. So it's a big, huge thanks to DDPY, and he has no idea. So yeah, he has no clue. He has no clue at all.
That's crazy.
So it's just crazy, the impact and influence that he has had. And how about, I already know you're going to chop this up because I already saw it happen. The big shout out for Mello and Trick. That's massive, dude. Like, oh my God.
You know what? When he was talking and kind of leading up to Trick, and he talking about when he saw him, blah, blah. I thought he was going to say Montez. So when he said Trick, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. That was huge.
It makes complete sense. It makes complete sense.
Totally see it.
Yeah. Of course. I saw the big smile on Mex's face when he mentioned Trick.
That's my guy, man.
Yeah, there you go.
He turned it around after that first promo that he done. That we were all came here the next week and we were like, "Oh, Trick Williams," but you know, he's literally turned it around. And you know, even for me, I was umming and ahhing. I was thinking, I have a little story that I didn't know whether to mention it to him. My brother, casual wrestling fan, he watches a lot of Shark Tank. So I remember maybe this is about 2013. DDP was on Shark Tank. My brother must have called. He's like, come downstairs, went to his bedroom. He was like, isn't that guy that does the RKO?
Wow.
I said, no, you know who Randy Orton is. He goes, no, I know it's not Randy Orton, but he copied Randy Orton's move, didn't he?
No.
That's hilarious.
Wow. Said, yeah. That's what I was thinking. Should I mention this or not?
That's funny, actually. That's hilarious.
Yeah, but at the time he was on Shark Tank trying to get funding for the app of DDP Yoga, and I think he rejected whatever they offered him. Obviously now DDP Yoga is massive. Like,
exactly.
So, they tried to kind of lowball him at the time, but good thing he rejected it. But man, absolute legend.
That's amazing.
Crazy stuff.
And that just happened.
And that just happened out of nowhere. It's crazy to think that, you know, this kind of happened in the space of like a couple of hours before we actually started the show. The contact with Anthony Gogo was happened a few days ago, but DDP reached out and was like, we can do it today. I was like, boys, we're scrapping the schedule. We're doing this today. It's happening. Let's go. Crazy stuff, man. DDP mentioned someone that we're actually going to talk about today. He mentioned a great friend of his, Booker T. We know him, of course, as a two-time WWE Hall of Famer. Championships here, there, and everywhere. But there was something very interesting. Gerard, I'm going to let you take this. There was something very interesting that he said. You mentioned the documentary about Dusty Rhodes in one of your latest videos as well. Just talk to us about what Booker T had to say about the
So this weekend, WWE, they have this great partnership with A&E, and they have Superstar Sundays, and usually the first hour or two deals with the biography on some famous superstar. So this weekend, it was all about Dusty Rhodes, which is obviously very, very exciting. If you've not had a chance to see it, go see it. It is really, really quite incredible. And so I'm watching it, and as I was watching it, God knows I wish we just had the clip to play for you guys, because some of you won't believe it. But this is what actually happened. So there was a segment where they were talking about Dusty Rhodes and his ability to connect with the African-American community. And, Dusty has said in times past, how he paid a lot of attention to what happened in churches. He would sit and listen to tent revivals and figure out, kind of what his tone and what his pace would be relative to speech and the like. And so in this piece, in this clip, they talk about how Dusty Rhodes connects very well with the African-American community. And Booker T said the following words. He says, quote, "If you were from the neighborhood, Dusty Rhodes was the only black wrestler that we could look up to." And proceeds to have this amazing grin.
I was about to say, you forgot the maniacal laugh at the end.
Yes, it's at the end. And I just went, did this really just happen? And so, well, you asked me to say what he said. That's what he said. Now, if you want me to talk about it, I can talk about it. But I want you, that's what he said. And that's exactly what, it was so Mex couldn't believe it when I put it in our chat. He couldn't believe it. So I had to put the clip in there so that you could see, no, I didn't make that up. That really happened.
I mean, in terms of the comparison that he makes, I feel, especially, maybe fans nowadays, we often see this comparison with Cody, obviously his son, Dusty's son, and it's Cody's promos is he's a preacher. You can see the ties, right?
Sure.
For Booker T to say that, the our black hero, basically our black wrestling icon in the hood was Dusty Rhodes.
I'll say, I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to say it, for that to be edited into the show, that's a slightly different thing. But I understand it, because here's the thing, of course, back in the day, and we've talked about stuff like this before actually on this show. You had the likes of Drunkyard Dog, and a few others back in the day, but they were never really given the status that they probably should have based on how good they were, whether it be on the mic, in the ring, or the rest of it. Black wrestlers were just the token. There was one per territory. You were lucky to see, more than one on a show, all that kind of stuff. So to see a guy like Dusty, who had all these characteristics of a preacher, of a black preacher, let's be very specific as well, who didn't look like your Hulk Hogan, your Randy Savage, your Ric Flair, who, this, that, and the other, who was so at that same time, he's relatable.
Yes.
In the most relatable way you could possibly be. So I get the sentiment and the joke at the same time. But But what worries me, or not worries me, but what stands out is the fact that a Booker T, a young Booker T, would watch wrestling and have to rely on white Dusty Rhodes to be his black icon. That tells you everything about what was going on in that time as well. And I think that's what it is for me. It's more so the, wait a second, Dusty Rhodes, yeah?
Yeah. And as much as he laughed, you could see he was being dead serious.
Oh, he was totally serious.
Right.
He was totally serious. I think, you know, it's interesting. I mean, real talk, you know, wrestling during that era, you know, it is very safe to say, which is why the era we live in now is so valuable, because we didn't have 4 African-American female champions. We didn't have regularly African-American male champions that we could look at, let alone just stars. We didn't. You know, it was, as you mentioned, 1 star per territory. And that particular star wasn't, you know, always the star of the territory. Nope. You know, so when you know, DDP mentioned Bill Watts and the days of Mid-South, you know, Bill Watts took a lot of hits for making Junkyard Dog the star of that promotion in states like Louisiana and Mississippi that were not popular states for Black people to be in prominent roles. You know, it's tricky because Dusty Rhodes holds a lot of strong sentimental value for a lot of people, myself included. Like, you know, there's just this holy hush when you mention Dusty, and in watching the documentary, you know, it's powerful, it's amazing, it's incredible. And his impact will live forever, legitimately. Like, that's not even hyperbole. You know, I just think we have to be careful in those kinds of statements. First of all, Dusty wasn't trying, and I want to be clear, Dusty wasn't trying to be something. Dusty was being Dusty. And because he was Dusty, that's what was so relatable. He was, you know, the common man. So we all could see ourselves in Dusty Rhodes. Plus, he had a swag to him. He talked in a way that, you know, it was easy for us as people of color to be able to relate to. I don't know if in our head we ever said that he's our Black wrestler. I think we said we love Dusty Rhodes. I think we said we can relate to Dusty Rhodes. You know, he's not the guy in the gym. He's, you know, you'd likely see him or someone like him in your family, on the street, at the store, you know, that type of thing. So we'll always have a tremendous respect, I think, for Dusty Rhodes. The statement makes me a little nervous.
Here's a question. You mentioned that, you know, he was never really trying to be anything.
Sure.
Do you think a Dusty Rhodes type character would be admired or torn down by the Black wrestling community nowadays? Because we had the likes of John Cena, for example, in his, you know, Thugonomics days, and as much as there wasn't so much of the wrestling community online as we have now, I know for a fact that some people were destroying this guy who was trying to be, you know, this Vanilla Ice type guy. Do you think that the Dusty Rhodes would work today?
That's a great question. You think no, Max?
I think obviously, like, you could try it, but it's one of those things where we know how the internet works. He's appropriating the culture. He's doing this. Let's cancel him. Like, you know, I think that would have followed, and obviously, it's then how would they have pivoted or dealt with that kind of backlash?
I think it has everything to do with authenticity. I mean, like, I think, you know, there's a term that I know the U.S. has used relative to those who are Caucasians who do R&B, and they will call it blue-eyed soul. you know. And so it's people like it's people who, if this is authentically who you are and it's clear that you're not trying, I think that's a much different scenario than someone who is coming out trying to be something that they're not. I think that is the thing. And I think the thing we always got from Dusty Rhodes was authenticity. Like, this wasn't Dusty trying to be cool and trying. I mean, Dusty was Dusty. And so people could relate to him. So I think it's just a question of, if it were, because it's authentically him, I think we could ride with it. Interesting case in point, related yet not, but you'll get it. Take LA Knight, for instance. If you watch LA Knight, you could make the argument that his cadence and presentation vocally mirrors The Rock.
100.
Strong. I mean, like, you know, but at the same time, there's something about him that we like. So we don't call him a Rock clone. We accept him as LA Knight. And that's because he's been talking like this everywhere he's been. Whether he was in TNA, the NWA, wherever he was, this is how he has presented himself. So we rock with it because it's been consistently him. I think Dusty would survive as long as it was still authentically him. Now the question is, do I think it would also depend on how he was presented, meaning would you position him specifically and exclusively to reach the African-American community, or would you just let him be? Like, if you just let him be, we all gravitate to him. But if you try to use him to go specifically to our community, it'll fall flat.
Yeah. For sure. I think we've seen kind of almost like the other side of it as well very recently, because, you know, you're talking about authenticity and if that's really them and blah blah blah. I remember it kind of all going mad when for Nikita Lyons, because this is a white woman who, before she was wrestling or before she was signed to WWE, you know, she was doing R&B tracks and all that kind of stuff, and she was known for, you know, dancing and all that kind of stuff as well. So when she became big in WWE and people started seeing what she was doing and blah blah blah, then there was this other video about her kind of talking about you know, Make America Great Again. That's when it kind of like
yeah. And that's what would be problematic.
Yeah, and I think even before that, I think the issue was more so that Nikita Lyons was coming up at the same time Lash Legend was coming up. And then there was this whole thing of, why is the white girl coming up over Lash Legend and and whatever. But yeah, it's not easy to, well, I get, I was going to say, it's not easy to always recognize authenticity. But again, as you perfectly put, Gerard, it may also then be as well how that person is booked or the way they position them, what they're used for and all that kind of stuff. So I guess it would be a very difficult thing to happen. I don't think a Dusty Rhodes would work now, and that's not because of Dusty Rhodes, but more so the wrestling community. For me, that's why I think it's going. But yeah, it's very interesting. But I also still, at the same time, we still have this whole thing of Cody being, you know, Cody Luther King. You know what I mean? So where do you win?
Luther King.
Like, where do you win? There was a post because we know Brock Lesnar has ended the championship reigns of all three black WWE champions that we've had. Big E, Bobby Lashley, and Kofi Kingston, and now
that's kind of crazy. Wow!
And now Cody Rhodes, as much as he never actually won a championship, but there was a tweet that was out there like that. So
that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
We pick and choose, and you know, we get what we get. Yeah, it's crazy. But one person we all love, of course, is Bianca Belair. She, of course, is still our reigning Raw Women's Champion. And we found out just yesterday on Raw that Io Sky is her next challenger. It all seems very interesting with the Io Sky and Damage Control kind of story. But where does this go when it comes to Bianca? Is this just a flyby? Is this more about Io Sky and Damage Control? Has it even got anything to do with Bianca? Mix, what do you think about this whole thing?
It seemed like they've maybe pivoted slightly. Straight out of WrestleMania, it looked like they were trying to set up something between Rhea and Bianca. Even last week on SmackDown, Rhea cut a promo and Rhea made some type of, great-est kind of comment. So it looked like maybe that was still the plan, followed by Triple H coming out and now saying there's a draft coming. So maybe we're opting against doing, the champion versus champion thing. And it's a case of this is just going to be nothing but kind of holding pattern kind of fodder, like give Bianca a good opponent. That Backlash show, I'm not sure if this is going to be for the Backlash show, something that's going to happen on Raw before the Backlash show. But yeah, give Bianca a very good opponent. It's a great spotlight for Io Sky. We are clearly moving towards the demise of Damage Control, which is absolutely fine with me because they haven't really done much of anything, which is a shame. Right. But let's just get rid of it now. So yeah, Bianca versus Io Sky is going to be an athletic one, that's for sure. Looking forward to it. Hopefully it's on the pay-per-view as opposed to just a throwaway on Raw. But yeah.
Where do you think this one's going, Gerard?
Yeah, I definitely think this is pay-per-view worthy. I think all of the Bianca Rhea stuff is giving me Cena Rock vibes. Like we're just putting the seeds in place for WrestleMania next year. I don't think there's any intention to give us this anytime soon. It's just to kind of keep this, kind of in the back burner, whispering in your ear as these other things are happening. With that said, I'm actually very excited about Io Sky and Bianca Belair. Just the history of Io Sky. Yep. This is really kind of her first real title shot on the main roster, which is crazy when you think about the fact that, she's a former NXT women's champion, tag team champion in both brands. Like, it just kind of makes sense that this would be an amazing test for Bianca. And in the process, we have Bayley with these, interesting looks that kind of gives us this feeling like, okay, this group is about to fall apart, which I'm not mad at because all three of them individually offer something really, really special that I think could boost the women's division in WWE instead of keeping them locked in a tag team space per se. And you could make the argument that Damage Control didn't really help Bayley as they should have because everybody in there won titles except Bayley during that run. So there's a lot of story to be told. Bianca will certainly play a role, I think, in that. And the real question to ask is, if Io loses, how does that impact the Damage Control thing? I think to some degree, as strange as this sounds, Io may need to win for Bayley to be even more jealous, to say, hey, that was my title shot. I should be champion. And now we accelerate the breakup of this group. So with that said, that now makes this match even more interesting because on one hand, do we have a Bianca reign that goes 400 days plus? Do we get her to 399 and then she drops? Like, what's going to happen there? So it's either that or Io wins the title to really boost up this issue that you have with Damage Control, all of which means we want to see this match.
I think a nice way to kind of encompass this whole thing with Damage Control and still keep Bianca on this run could be a situation where Io comes very close to beating Bianca.
Sure.
But then Bayley is the one that, either knocks her out, does something, and blah, blah, blah. And then Bianca still wins. I think that would be the best way.
I like
to kind
that
of
scenario.
Everything kind of going.
I think something, definitely along the lines of maybe even if when Io probably doesn't win, Bayley can be like, you wasted the opportunity. I was going to become champion or something like that.
Yeah.
There's also the other opportunity, and I can't quite remember where this falls in the calendar, but I think it follows Backlash. We've got the Queen of the Ring stuff that's going to happen in Saudi.
May 27th. Yep.
Yeah.
True.
The minute you name either Dakota or Io Sky as Queen of the Ring, friction, because now Bailey has to answer for one of them as well. So it depends how invested, especially obviously we've heard probably quite a lot of rumors in the last week about Bailey unhappiness. Is she leaving? Is she staying? If they really want to give this end to Damage Control, you know, something, because they've not given the actual faction anything, you know, during their time. This could be a smart way to do it. Maybe give Dakota Kai Queen of the Ring or something like that, and then let the infighting basically begin, because Bailey's going to be too jealous.
Yeah, very true. And to make matters worse with this whole Damage Control thing, we've now got new women's tag team champions. I start wondering why Damage Control even lost it in the first place. Blah blah blah. This random Trish heel turn. Anyway, whatever. Moving on from that. We saw Mercedes Moné. She's retained her IWGP.
Yeah,
get right. IWGP. Yeah, I always mix it up in my head. Women's Championship in a triple threat match. Gerard, give me your synopsis of this match and what this means for Mercedes.
Well, I will say it this way: Mercedes Moné, excuse me, is not Sasha Banks. Right. I'll say it again for the people in the back.
Right.
Mercedes Moné is not Sasha Banks. What we are seeing from Mercedes is kind of a whole new chapter. This is what she's doing in the ring is special. It's probably the stuff a lot of us thought she could do, but she never really had the opportunity to. And so that's why her being in Japan is so important, because not only do you have dance partners who can now rock with your track, now you can make new music. And so she gets to make brand new music. And the pace is faster. The pace is stronger. I'm watching her going, I'm not sure I knew that you had this in you. Like, this is incredible. You know, it is amazing. And now, you know, things are just ratcheting up. I looked at how, you know, they had her like 5th or 6th on the card for that Sakura Genesis card, which was a stacked card. So that was fantastic card. I mean, what a show. So shout out to her. Shout out to this upcoming title match she has at Stardom in a couple of weeks. And so now we're really starting to see what this is going to do. And it's going to have international people all over the place trying to figure out, how do I see Stardom pay-per-views? I want to watch Mercedes.
True.
So it's a massive win. And again, to see an African-American woman dominating in Japan, oh, this is great.
Mex, we saw what she did at the pre-show press conference. She also again used the same move, the Moneymaker, in the match. I've seen rumblings on Twitter about this move, how it's not the safest, it's not the best. It can look a bit tired. What are your opinion? What's your opinion on this, on the Moneymaker?
Personally, I like finishers that can kind of just come out of nowhere. Like, oh my god, this person hit it, like pin, done. Like, where people I think are beginning to get a bit jarred with it is just all kind of the setup and all of that, kind of like getting them on her back before she flips them into this DDT. I think it's a little detail. It's a little thing that, you know, people can, you know, people like to nitpick at stuff in it. So I think it's a very little thing. The one she hit against Kairi in her last title defense, or before this past week, was awesome. Like, she literally hit it at top speed, just bang, like it just came wonder match. In this particular match, or in the press conference, she hit it, but she like didn't go the whole way with the DDT or whatever. So yeah, it's leaving it open for criticism, but you know, it's very minor things. I think the bigger picture here is that she's putting eyes on this product that not a lot of people were watching before, maybe had interest but didn't find a way to watch it. Now people are finding a way. Now people are paying to watch this. And just to kind of give some comments on the match itself as well, you know, the two ladies she fought against are stars in what they call in Stardom like their high speed division. These are like matches they just like it's mental. It's like Ricochet's sort of thing, like just running through matches.
It's almost like an X division of that promotion.
Yeah, that's a good way to kind of put it. So for her to kind of keep up, because this was the talk before the match. Can she keep up? Like she kept up, like more than. And I'm gonna put my neck out here, but this may be one of the best women's triple threat matches I've seen.
Facts.
Like, this was phenomenal. Like, I feel like if this was, I mean, we'll wait and see probably middle of the week, end of next week, or I don't know if Meltzer's rated this match already, but yeah, this was brilliant, and I think you'll struggle to find a higher rated women's triple threat match from Meltzer or whomsoever. And now she's got Iwatani at the end of the month. Yokohama, like Gerard said, that's going to be a big show. I think she's dropping the belt personally. I think I think she's putting Iwatani over. I think there's what she's doing. A lot of the slaps she gave her at the end of that her match the other day. Like that was literally, I'm knocking the crap out of your mouth. Like like you know when your parents say I'm gonna slap the black off your skin. Like it was one of them. Like. It was one of them, and then she slapped her again at the press conference. I said, she's making us, you know, think, oh, she's the heel and everything like that. She sang, you know, that Iwatani sucks and everything at the press conference. I think she's doing a lot to put her over, and it's interesting to see, you know, is this her done in Japan? Will she move on from Japan after April? But if that's the case, she's more than done her job.
Speaking of making an impact across the world, we now know that AEW have announced, or the very interesting Tony Khan has a big announcement. I roll my eyes every time, but this was actually a big announcement that Adam Cole made. But anyway, again, AEW is coming to London. All in London is coming to Wembley Stadium. We want to know on this show, we'll talk about it. It's happening, and we're very interested to see. Well, it's very interesting to see, should I say. The poster has come out, and we see all these AEW stars. We see Jade Cargill right on the left of this poster. Teeny weeny acclaimed on the poster. And we won't talk about the whole, you know, not enough black people on the poster and blah, blah. We could do, but we won't. But at the same time, the question here is, when it comes to the black stars in AEW, who do we think needs to maybe be involved or be pushed in time for this big pay-per-view? Is there anyone? Will they bother? Gerard, what do you think when it comes to this whole thing? What's your opinion?
Well, I want to ask you guys a question before I share my opinion, because there's a lot of questions in the States relative to AEW's ability to sell this out and fill up this arena. You guys are there. I've heard rumblings about, you know, AEW does have more viewers, say, than WWE in terms of programming and things like that. Is the interest in your mind strong enough to fill up this stadium literally a month and a half after Money in the Bank happens in London as well?
Mex, I'll let you answer it.
I think my reservation is that this isn't right now being sold as a pay-per-view. It's kind of like a house show on steroids. This isn't being sold as a pay. Yeah, it's not a pay-per-view. This is like a special big event or something, like, but it's not actually a pay-per-view. It's a week before All Out, which is obviously a massive pay-per-view for them.
True.
So my fear is that obviously, because it's Wembley, it's a 90,000 seater. They're going to put on an amazing card. How will people register this in their head, though? Like, am I actually watching something that's going to be definitive? Does it mean something? So that's how I don't know. Now, of course, they're going to build a set. They're going to have backstage that probably takes out the best part of, call it 20,000 seats or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If they reach 60 to 70,000, I think that's massive, because, you know, these sub shows they're doing, Grand Slam and stuff, like 20, 25,000 people. So it's absolutely massive. But accessibility is another issue. Like, already around the Wembley area, hotels are sold out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and
oh wow,
you know, the ones that aren't sold out, the price has gone, you know, skyrocketed. So it's now, are people going to think, is this one in a lifetime? Are they going to come back? Do, you know, the financial costs in a time where people don't have a lot of, you know, disposable cash to spend will start adding up. Without doubt, like, I don't care how it has to happen, I will find myself in that building. Like, the minute the tickets come out, I don't know what it's going to cost, I'm going to be there. But that is, you know, that isn't necessarily the case for everybody. Europe is obviously not too far. We'll have a load of people coming in from Europe. Like you already said, Gerard, there's, you know, easily between 100 and 150,000 people that watch AEW on ITV on a Friday night here, you know, 2 days after it's come out already.
That's
wow.
crazy.
People still watch it in this country. Not to say all of those people will come, but that's a big audience.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why they've gone for such a massive stadium in my book. Like I said, anything over 50,000, 60,000 is a win. It's a massive win. People are saying, oh, you know, it'll look scanty and you don't want to have it, you know, it's a win. Let's be honest. But yeah, for me, it's just how they frame this, with them kind of not publicly admitting right now it's not a pay-per-view, but it's not a pay-per-view, and with their main pay-per-view All Out happening a week later.
You know what? I didn't know that. I thought it was very similar to how Money in the Bank is, where it's the pay-per-view but just not in the States. So it's interesting to know that All Out is only a week later. That changes it in a very big way.
One thing I am curious of, sorry, it's just I think from what I saw on a poster, it seems like Wembley is celebrating like 100 years or something.
Yes,
like that.
Correct.
So I don't know whether this is just a collaborative thing to celebrate that, and that's why it's not quite a pay-per-view, or, you know, it might just be, like I say, a glorified kind of house show, because it's not TV either. So I don't know where this quite sits, like, but we'll see.
I mean, I was gonna say, like, it's interesting to see how people react to that. I don't know whether that will make much of a difference, though. But then at the same time, you made a great point of saying that will some people look at it and think, oh, if I miss this one, I'll go to the next one. Because, you know, is there going to be a next one? Looking back at what WWE did with Clash at the Castle, obviously, I think we were unsure whether we would get anything else. After its success, we were like, all right, we're getting another one. So Money in the Bank feels as though it is a case of, right, if I miss this one, I can go to the next one because they're going to come back next year. Whereas this is still kind of, you know, the jury's out type of thing, to where, you know, you're still unsure. But I think at the same time, you know, if they run it well enough, if the card is great enough, if they're able to build a card before 2 weeks before, you know, this whole last minute madness that they do, that would help. But I don't know. I still think, regardless of how it's all done and how it works out and blah, blah, their attendance is going to be a win. It's not going to be, I'm not expecting a sellout. I'm not expecting a sellout at all. But if they get anything, you know, over 40 to 50, like Mick said, that's a win.
It's huge.
That's massive. That's massive.
Last time in the UK.
Right. That's massive. And I think it will be simply based on the fact that people in the UK have been waiting for AEW for however many years it's been. since they started. Obviously, we had COVID, and then we've now waited another year or two after that, and all the rest of it. I think that alone is going to sell it. The card will definitely help. The way they portray it will help, but I still think it's going to be successful, or successful enough to be called successful, if that makes sense. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't see it failing. I don't see it failing. I'd be very, very surprised if it did.
They said 25,000 on pre-sale registrations on the first day or something.
First day,
So,
it's going to be successful. But going back to the original question, like who do we think? And this is a very difficult question, because we're thinking about a UK audience now, not just who are top black stars in AEW.
Right.
Who is there for the UK to think, oh, I'm gonna go to this?
I think obviously Jade Cargill. I mean, like, that's obvious. What may not be as obvious, but I think is necessary because of their history in the UK, is Shane Strickland. Swerve has to be there. He has done several things in the UK in many places, as does Keith Lee, who has been very popular in the UK. So to that end, I think, now's the time where they have to start really kind of working things and getting people ready, because you're right. They're not going to be able to use the formula they've used here, where they can go, oh, okay, it's a week out. Now we can start telling y'all what the card is. No, they're going to need to do that early. I definitely think they would need to be there. I also think, and this may sound crazy, but I think they're going to have to leverage some of the relationships they have with stars from the UK, with stars from New Japan as well. This has to be their super show. It's clearly the biggest attended show they've ever had, their first stadium show ever. So they have to really, I'm going to pull out a name, which I know you guys are going to love, but I think for the UK would be incredible on an AEW stage, and that's Michael Oku. Like, that has to happen. I mean, given all that he has done in the UK, outside of the UK, put him in let something happen with him and Jericho again, and we get that match on that stage. I mean, Jericho wants it. It would be killer. And first of all, they're going to sing Jericho's song like crazy, but the way they're going to cheer for Oku is going to be unreal. It's going to be unreal. So I think those are some of the people. I think obviously Powerhouse Hobbs would be really good for people to be able to see, but those 4 or 5 in terms of African-American stars or black stars, I think, they have to be a part of this, because it's history and you need to get people who the UK is already invested in. And I think those are some of those people.
Chris Jericho podcast about 2 months ago. Obviously when he had Oku on after their PWG tag match, and Oku said, like, I know you guys are coming over. This was live on the podcast. I know you guys are coming over. Just get me there, like, like a dark match or something. And then, they talked about, I can get you on dark easy. Like, I don't know if they're going to, tape dark here while they're here, whatever the case is.
That would be interesting.
Jericho made promises. So Mr. Chris Jericho, it's time to pull the strings.
It'd be interesting. It'd be very interesting. I know Wrestlings did a little video mentioning some names and stuff as well. And obviously, one of the obvious, not black stars, but one of the obvious UK stars is Will Ospreay.
Oh, of course.
Of course, he has to be on there. And
him and Omega, that has to happen in that stadium. Oh my god.
Definitely. And obviously they did mention Oku as well, and the type of response that Oku gets at a Rev Pro show, you'd be very, very stupid, very, very stupid not to have him in a match. I think at the lowest in terms of opponent, Orange Cassidy for that international championship.
That'd be crazy.
At the lowest. At the lowest. So it would be amazing to see Oku, and it's such a big space as well, and all the rest of it. So that would be very, very interesting.
Now I will say this: given the spectacle that this is going to be, given its size, given it being the largest house that AEW will have ever drawn, to me, there's no way this isn't live on pay-per-view. There's no way. I mean, think about this. This is it. So, back in the 80s, WWE would do these kinds of shows, but there wasn't the pay-per-view expectation, and there's all this footage that's out there of these Canadian shows that they would do with 70,000 people, which was bigger than Mania at that particular point. But in this era, I think the visual, the footage, those are things that AEW is going to need to capture and broadcast live to show the rest of the world, oh yeah, we can do this. This is our new Mania. They don't have anything on record in their library that's nearly as big. So they're going to shoot as much content as they possibly can there. And I definitely think about the visuals you have when you watch WrestleMania. They're massive. The visuals that you get when you watch Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome. The Tokyo Dome looks like 100,000 people, and it's only 40 because they usually have, they usually got an audience of about 4,000 or 5,000 people. So you get you look at the audience that AEW currently has on their weekly shows. They're going to make this 60 or 70,000 look like 200,000 people. There's no way they're going to go over there and not capture this for all the world to see on pay-per-view live. If they don't, it's a missed opportunity.
I think it's more of the thing of when WWE done was it Super Showdown, the one in Australia. Sure. So it's more. I think it's more akin to something like that. It may not be consequential with the week-to-week product or whatever the case is. I think the other thing that was being discussed was how are they going to do a pay-per-view all in and then a pay-per-view all out? Will they have to offer some type of bundle deal to customers? If you buy one, you get the other one half the price or something like that, because it's basically 2 in a week, and it's a lot to then ask people,
which is shocking to me. I actually thought it was replacing All Out.
I thought that
because I knew they were trying to move All Out from Chicago, and this made the most sense to me. In my head, I just don't see, with all that it takes to take all of your production and the like across the pond, then you turn around, because then you're going to have to do still a Dynamite and a Rampage and a pay-per-view. Seems like a lot.
And I think a lot of of the wrestling community thought it was a replacement as well. I remember someone saying that they bought tickets or made plans about going to Chicago, and then when they saw the stuff about London, were all upset. I can't believe I made these plans and now it's in London. So they'll be happy. But it's very weird. But I do think the whole thing will be very similar to how, as Mick said, the Australia show, the first couple of Saudi shows as well. Yeah, all of that kind of thing. So I think there still definitely needs to be some kind of pay-per-view element in there. But at the same time, maybe the matches won't, be then consequential to weekly stuff and all that kind of thing. But it would be very silly to not. But at the same time, it's very silly to have both in the week.
WWE done it before. WWE done it. We can't. Remember, isn't when Roman came back and won the title? They had Payback and the other one in 1 week.
But that was also during the pandemic. There was no audience. So
that's true.
But even that alone was confusing.
That was surprising.
That was confusing to me. You know what I mean? So it's whether they pull it, if they pull it off, they pull it off. But at the same time, it's still why. That's the question I'm asking. Is why do it?
And US fans will travel to London for this.
Absolutely,
and then of course they will go to All Out. So
of course they will.
Totally,
it's a lot. It is a lot.
Totally.
Gosh, it's crazy. It's crazy. Wow. Speaking of a lot, we've had a lot of time on this show today, so we are all out for today.
Nicely done. I see what you did there.
I'm trying. It's because I've been drinking my drinks today. You know what I mean? It's good. It's good. It's good. The energy's up there, like DDP.
Yes,
guys, this has been our show. You are watching WrstlXtra on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell. This guy Mex will be giving all of his responses and opinions of all the stuff going on in AEW and WWE and everything else that Mercedes Moné does as well.
That's my girl.
Yeah.
You can follow Mex on WrestleManiac.uk on Instagram, WrestleManiac UK on Twitter. Follow this guy, Gerard Bonner, the professor on Bonafide on all things. And also, of course, find him on WWT Live, Southern Honor Wrestling. His own show, The Faction Show, as well. You can follow me, A Dazzle, on Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram and BWA Dazzle on Twitter. Guys, this has been our show. This has been a long one. This has been an energetic one. We've done a lot, and I'm still feeling the energy, but I know I'm gonna crash like in like 20 minutes. I know it. Guys, thank you for joining us. Everyone that has joined us. I'm not even going to go through all the names because there were so many today. But Anafi from Restings as well. I know Knowledge was in here. Who else was in here? Scotty 2 Dotty was in here. All sorts of people. Everyone was in here today. And thank you very much for joining us. But we will see you again next time.
See you later, guys.